Greetings and salutations, viewers and listeners. Welcome to a special episode of the Sparks to Life podcast where we have both video and audio. So, welcome and thank you for joining myself for episode 46 of the Sparks to Life podcast, brought to you by Inspire the Muse. We are a sporadic podcast now where effectively at this point we are interviewing creators of all styles and genres to discuss the creative process. And recently I had the opportunity of interviewing an artist from CT GamerCon, I believe it was, back at Foxwoods, Mohegan Sun. It was a gambling establishment where I totally did not do anything unusual. No, really, I didn't. I just went for the convention and to have some fun and to meet some fun people, which I did. So I hope you all enjoy the following interview where we got to discuss Trot L'Oeil's creative process. Enjoy. Convention go?
It actually went pretty decently. That's my first time to GamerCon. I've really been trying to branch out to more cons. I started out primarily going solely to My Little Pony conventions. Because I started solely doing custom My Little Ponies.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I got to DerpyCon, that's held in New Jersey, that I tried to start going out. Oh, we can hear her. That I started trying to go out a little bit more than just doing My Little Pony conventions. But the issue is, because of my full-time job, and a lot of cons are 3-day cons, I have to try and find ones that can fit within a time frame that I'm not missing so much work, because otherwise I'd get fired.
Oh, I remember those feelings all too well when I was in the con circuit. It's fun times.
It's fun times. I mean, that's not my first, kind of... God, I have to open up the door because otherwise she's going to try and knock it down.
Oh, dear.
And I'm not kidding when I say that. What do you want, little monster?
All of the attention, obviously.
Well, she also just had a bath. She went to the groomer vet sort of thing. There's a place near here that does nothing but cats. And they have something where, they will groom your cat and everything. And it's an all-day thing. Like, they'll clip the nails, they'll give her a bath and everything like that. And she just had that today, so she's kind of coming out of the anesthetic because she's not happy when she goes to take a bath. Stop. So she's being nosy. But back to the cons. So it's stop. I've been actually quite lucky this year to find a lot of 2-day cons that won't interfere with me going to work. And finding just 2-day cons is actually hard. Because a lot, and
most of them are 3 days still.
Most of them are 3 days. There are quite a few 4 days. And I can understand that. But for someone who is not a full-time seller, it's actually quite hard. Yes. Hi.
You basically look like my cat Stella.
Meet Mina. So, I've been very lucky. GamerCon was a 2-day. The con that I went to before that, which was Fanfare, was a 2-day. What's next? Hudson Valley Comic Con, which is coming up soon, is a 2-day. I have another random indie one that I found out about through a friend of mine who happened to be at GamerCon. He told me about this. It's called ValleyCon. That's another 2-day. He actually used to run a 2-day one, but this year I think there were scheduling conflicts where he wasn't able to get everything fully set up. So that one, which I would have gone to because it's like right in White Plains, and so therefore 20 minutes away, get away. They had to cancel that show, and the con that was the 3-day con that I applied for that same weekend, I didn't get off the wait list. So unfortunately about that. So, but I think that's perfectly fine. The time that those 2 cons were happening around is the end of the school year. And as a teacher, full-time job, finals happen and all that fun stuff. And so I actually need to focus. But I know I've also just applied for the Artist Alley for BronyCon. I've done BronyCon many, many years. I am waiting for DerpyCon's Artist Alley to open up. And I also have a 3-day convention in Connecticut happening in August called Tiny Paws Con. So it's actually a lot more broad this year. And I like that. It kind of forces me to do stuff other than My Little Pony. I had a lot more Pokemon than I usually do. I had, a couple I had a Magic the Gathering character. I had a couple video game characters. So it's really forced me to kind of open up what I do in terms of my figurines.
Cool. Now I have a very tough and semi-embarrassing question. How do you pronounce the name of your little artist card thing?
Everyone kind of gets... No one kind of fully understands or appreciates this until they understand the logic. So, Trot L'Oeil, which is the name of my OC, or, MLP persona. It's a play off of the art term Trot L'Oeil. So, one of the biggest things that is in the MLP fandom, bronies, Pegasisters, whatever you want to call it, 90% of the people will have their own original character, their own OC, and that sort of thing. And one day I was like, I've been thinking about my own OC, what would she look like and everything. And so I came up with this character, and the name Trot L'Oeil would not leave my head for what to call her. And the thing is, I've been through several different names for my shop. I started out with a play off of 2 of my names, Moira Cat Designs. And then when I was with my previous business partner, we called it Tomcat Pop Shop. And, then my partner and I split, and I was like, okay, we can't call it Tomcat anymore because Tom is not here. So I was like, okay, how do I didn't want to go back to Moira Cat because that didn't really, it didn't feel right. So I was like, what can I do? What can I do? And I went with the name of my OC because she is an artist type character.
Cool.
So actually, I could show you what she kind of looks like with a little figurine. One of the first ones I did. So this is actually how I got started with making MLP characters. So this is actually what she looks like. So
is that just a standard white MLP base toy that you could work with, or?
I think this one originally was not white. I just primed her white and then painted everything. Every time that I do any sort of MLP character, I rarely leave hair free or do rerouting, as it's called, with figurines. I've done rerouting before. It is a pain. It hurts my fingers. I hate it. And it takes, once you add up all the hours together, because no one will sit and do like that much rerouting in one day. When you add up all the hours together, it's at least 24 hours.
For a single pony.
For a single anything, for a single figurine, whether it be pony, Monster High Doll, Ever After High Doll, whatever. I mean, if you ever go on Etsy and you see like some of the rerouting services, it makes sense how much it costs. Because you're sitting there poking like little bits, little chunks of hair into tiny little holes. And half the time, especially for like this, it doesn't want to go through because of all the heavy plastic that's actually inside. So I sculpt. I'll take 2-part epoxy clay. And the thing is that sometimes for me, I find that might be a little bit better because maybe someone has a particular hairstyle for either their pony or something else. And that allows me to play with the clay and sculpt the hairstyle to that person's liking. So I work with 2-part epoxy clay. It's a little bit heavier, but it's also not going to smash when it gets thrown against the wall. Which, especially when little girls see the ponies and they start running up and try to grab it, then it's kind of like, yeah, don't worry, your kid's not going to break this. So, but, this has its, drawbacks in its own sense as well, because, it's not like I can immediately start painting onto it. I have to wait for the clay to cure. I have to make sure that then I sand it down, or even style it a little bit further with, a Dremel tool. And, even when sculpting it, I have to make sure I'm using lotion to smooth out the edges, make sure it looks seamless. Because that's the other trick, is that it has to look like it's seamless. But it's not like, rerouting, where I'm having to put tiny little bunches of hair into tiny little holes. So and sometimes when doing some of the more popular characters, having the clay allows me to do some of the more elaborate and realistic looking hairstyles. Like, for example, some of the not quite minor characters, but some of the characters like Princess Luna or Princess Celestia, they have hair that looks like it floats.
Yeah.
And it's not meant to touch the ground. And so when someone's actually doing actual hair, you can't really get that effect. Doing clay, I can lay the figure on its side in a way that will allow me to make it so that when the clay is dry and I stand it upright, the hair looks like it's suspended.
That's really clever. And it looks really cool.
And a lot of people are like, it's suspended. It looks so real. And plushie artists also try to achieve that look as well. And they'll accomplish it a little bit better than someone who's doing a full-on rehair. Because with a plush artist, you're able to achieve a pattern and a look and everything like that. And you can determine how much stuffing goes in order to make sure that it doesn't become top heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how do you fit all of this in while working a full-time job dealing with all of the students?
Oh, you mean how do I not kill my high school students? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I have to kind of reflect back to something that when I was getting my degree in teaching, and I was doing a student teaching assignment, which was a requirement for my graduate program. My teacher at one of my assignments gave me the best advice. He said, we're artists. Don't stop doing your art just because you're teaching art. And that was something that stuck with me it stuck with me still. And I think of that very often. He passed away a couple of years ago. And it's something I've never forgotten. So, there are some times when for several weeks, maybe I don't touch any of my figurines. It does keep me occupied also in the summer as well, because, I can go out, I can sand rather than being stuck indoors. Um, and also these coming summers, it's one of those things where it's like I'm working on another degree and I actually have to do summer work as well. So it's not like I can take a secondary job that I can get paid for. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's hard sometimes. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I brought my figurines with me to school. Especially around midterms and finals, because, you know, if I find that I need a break from grading my midterms or grading the finals, or if I find that I'm done and I need a break just in general, then yeah, I do some work. Because otherwise, like, I feel like, you know, it's just one of those things that I fully enjoy. And it's been a major help in other instances where it's like, you know, it's kept me going. It's just one of those things that's kept me going at times.
When the students become too much, it's something that can make the days go by.
Well, that and, you know, other personal issues that have happened. It's one of those things where, you know, when there have been several particular difficult times in my life since I started doing figurines, that just doing them and having a focus has actually helped me through those very difficult times. And it's, you know, it's also another thing in terms of, like, I've learned to kind of improve my craft as a teacher, while improving my skill as a crafter, because there's some techniques and tricks that I do on figurines that I'm able to take into a classroom and use. And those were things that I would never have thought of before until I actually started doing figurines.
That's really cool. So you have your figurines. I know you have some sketches and illustrations.
Yep. I've done, you know, sketches, paintings. I've done like the digital art, things like that. I feel like 90% of artists who work in an artist alley are kind of, you know, in like almost have to have some kind of 2D art in that sense. I never do very, very much of it because my primary is the figurines. I do jewelry from time to time. Like, I'll take little mini blind bag figurines or things like that, and I'll make them into pins or bracelets, necklaces sometimes. I have done enamel pins, and those have been, you know, pretty good. I just started with buttons, so, you know, I guess you could almost say bread and butter of someone working in the artist alley are postcards, smaller 2D prints, and buttons. And, you know, sometimes they work for me, sometimes they don't. I try and have, you know, and every artist has their own unique style when it comes to that sort of thing. So some of my stuff is done in Illustrator, some of it's done in Photoshop. A lot of times I do sketches first, either in Adobe Draw or in my sketchbook, and then bring it into the computer or something like that. But I mean, I guess my sketches can't be all bad. I have at least 2 designs up on We Love Fine right now, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, well, one is coming soon. I know they bought it, because they had me sign all the paperwork for it and everything like that. And one is currently and one is currently being sold. It's been sold since last year. So
nice.
Gotta be doing something right with those.
I think my favorite pieces from the booth that I saw were the little Pokemon birds that you did. Those were more entertaining than they should have been.
The legendary birds. So actually, randomly one time I saw someone in one of my Facebook groups selling a toy like that, but the thing is the bottom part was kind of busted. So when I first did, and my first one was an Articuno. When I first did it, I actually had to make it attached to a stand at the bottom. So I had to sculpt like a stand that it could sit, that it was like attached to, because the bottom part was broken and it wouldn't like clip like it did. And it sold like the first time I put it out, which was at Lock City Comic Con last year. And I did it the same exact way this time. I think this time the difference is what type of bird it was in terms of the style. I think the first time the style that I did it in was closer to what Zapdos' style was, which is like, you know, the way the wings were and everything. But the cool thing is about all those three birds, like you said, they could attach. So like, you know, someone could attach it to, you know, a strap or their finger or something like that and just carry it around, which, you know, I think is a pretty cool thing. And, you know, kids would love the idea of being able to like brush out the hair, especially like little girls who do love, you can brush out all those hair and everything like that. So
I would probably just clip it to my fedora when I go to conventions.
there you go. I think actually all three are still available too. No one bought them.
Oh,
Just kind of sad. I actually did not, surprisingly, I thought my Pokemon stuff would go like that. I thought all my video game stuff would go like that. Surprisingly, when I took out most of the My Little Pony stuff that I did, that's the stuff that was selling. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm at a video game conference and all of this, or I'm at a video game convention, and I'm not selling my Kirby's. I'm not selling Felicia. I'm not selling Rita. I'm not selling any of the Power Ranger stuff. I'm not even selling Pokemon. What's selling are the My Little Ponies. What's going on here?
Every convention is a little different. You never know what to expect.
This is very true. This is very, very true. So.
Have you seen your creative process grow or evolve at all as you've done all of these conventions?
Yeah. I've definitely seen, first of all, I've definitely seen a skill level in terms of sculpting evolve. Like this is very early. This is very, very early in my career. I wish I actually had a better example with me. I hate keeping my own work. The only reason I kept this one is because this is my original character. But this is very, very old. I look at it now, I can see some of the seams. I can see where the paint needs to be like either fixed or where I missed some spots or things like that. But I'm not going to touch it because, you know, it's sentimental. But, you know, nowadays I know like the better sealants. I know better techniques for, you know, making it look pretty seamless in terms of sanding, in terms of, you know, with lotion to make sure the seams are smooth, to even like, you know, add a bit more detail in terms of using my Dremel tool. So I see an evolution. And I see an evolution in what I do. I literally just finished a Weeping Angel design, actually, from Doctor Who. I'm actually making two of them. The second one is in progress. Actually, I could probably
as long as they're staring at each other, we're safe.
Exactly, as long as they're staring at each other, that we're safe. Let me actually see if I can pull that up and show you, because I just made these sort of. There we go. So there it is, my Weeping Angel.
That's really cool.
Thank you. Ironically, that's not the first time I've made a Weeping Angel. But I haven't made one in ages because I hate trying to do dolls. Because once again, this goes back to rehairing and everything like that. And I would have to work with the type of doll that has the correct hair for whatever character. I mean, that's what I did with the doll from Magic the Gathering and for the alternate coloring of Felicia from Darkstalkers. They actually had those particular hair colors. So Felicia, the alternate version, is the black cat costume with pink hair. Azusa, Lost But Seeking, has straight black hair. So I had 2 dolls that already had those hair colors. Let me just work with those. I have another one that I'm about to do the same sort of thing with and see if I can make a Pixie X-Men.
Oh, cool.
She has pink hair. She has pink hair, but it's not like that long type of pink hair. It's much shorter. It probably goes to about, her shoulders. So when I'm done with the current round of figurines, I'm looking at some of the other things I've got, and I'll probably end up making a Pixie from X-Men because that's one of the few characters that has like this short pink hair. So it's one of those things where it's like I have to try and work with it rather than trying to work against it, because working against it, I'm just going to end up getting screwed. And it'll turn into another weeping angel. Because that's usually what I do with things that I have no idea of what to do with. The second one that I'm currently working on, that one was supposed to be the Azusa. But the problem is that all the dye that I put in her hair kept rubbing off onto the face. And it wouldn't come off even with, applying acetone, which is how you would get the face makeup off of a Monster High or Ever After doll or something like that. And the problem is you do that too much, you eat away at the plastic. And so finally I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to just make it a weeping angel. So.
And then they slowly take over the world.
That's why they're actually like over there. Well, they're not. They're not in this room. They're like gone. But and another one I actually just finished. Ironically, in honor of National Unicorn Day, I just finished Amalthea from Last Unicorn. And another one of these things is like I can't take full-on credit for some of this stuff because I do actually, I guess in a sense that you could say I outsource a little bit because I have 0 sewing skills. 9 times out of 10, if I'm making an outfit, I'll make it from pieces. Thank you. I'll make it from pieces that I already have, that I don't have to do anything. That outfit totally did not make. I actually found it on Etsy. And, when I list something like this on Etsy where I'm using something else from someone, I actually make sure to link to that person and give credit. I know I'm not the only person who does this because people will make customs of characters or things like that, and they know they have 0 sewing skills. But I know, like, I made I painted her all the way through, painted the face, styled the hair, did the horn, all that stuff. So 90% of that is my work. So,
very cool.
Thank you. But that one's also been one that's been like, in the making. I've had like that kind of percolating at the back of my head. The problem is that sometimes when I have an idea in the back of my head, it will kind of nag at me until I finish it. Sometimes it will go away and it won't bother me, but then there are times when it's just like, hey, are you going to do me? Are you going to do me? And it's like, go away. Like that Felicia one from GamerCon. That thing has been sitting in the back of my mind for ages. And my biggest thing was like, how am I going to do the blue hair? Because I can't do blue hair. And I was like, how am I going to do this? And finally I realized I could probably do the alternate version of her with like the hot pink hair and the black outfit. And that would just look really cool. So that's how that one came about.
Sometimes it just takes a little while to figure out the right combination.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
So, for all the other artists and creative people out there, and even your students or future students, if you were to provide some sort of lessons learned or some advice, what would you toss out there beyond don't blink?
Beyond don't blink. Yes, don't blink. Um, don't give up. I know that probably sounds cliche, corny, whatever you might want to do, but honestly, if I had stopped trying to do this after my first couple of failures, I would not be here, doing cons. Now, yeah, and granted, I'm not one of the big names. I'm not like White Dove plushies who can basically sell like gigantic plushes for like $500. I'm not, you know, I'm not a big name, but I still love doing what I do. I and it wouldn't be here if I gave up, because if I gave up, I would probably just be like, okay, what the heck am I going to do with with just doing art? Like, this is not doing anything for me. And I guess in a way, like, it's one of those things that makes me think to the first con I did this year. First con I did this year, like I said, was Fanfare. Now, granted, this was a horrible con for me. I didn't make back table, and yeah, everyone's going to have those failures. But what I appreciate about this con is that it was run by the PTA of the school that it was held at. This was an art school. This was an art and design school that is in New York. And a lot of these kids might be the future vendors. The cool thing about this is the parents are being supportive. The majority of the people who were vending were kids. And they're mixed in with the people who've been doing this for years. So they're seeing what it's like. Now, I have no idea if it was successful for them, but they at least can get an idea of not every con is going to go swimmingly. And in that sense, it's one of those things where, don't give up. You got to keep trying. Like, this might work, but that might not. So I'm seeing like some of my stuff does work and some of my stuff doesn't. And the stuff that doesn't, I hold on to it for a little while and see if it will sell. And if it doesn't, I usually end up donating it for charity. So, and that's, always just something else in that sort of sense. You got to learn when to let something go. If something doesn't work, then maybe it's time to switch gears. And that's what I've learned with a bunch of the figurines that I've done. They weren't very successful, so I was like, okay, time to move on, time to donate it. And I'm perfectly fine with donating figurines that I've had around for a while, because I'd rather have that do some good than just have it sit gathering dust.
For all our viewers and listeners out there, where can they find all of your works or find you in person in future conventions?
Well, in about 2 weeks, I'll be at Hudson Valley Comic Con, which, if I remember correctly, is somewhere up in Poughkeepsie at Gold's Gym. This is Hudson Valley's third year. So, and I went to first year. It was a lot of fun. I wasn't able to go last year due to family event. So, but I'm very excited to go back. If they can't catch me there, I will be then at the beginning of May. I believe it's May 5th and 6th at ValleyCon, which is at the Jefferson Mall. So, and I keep all that updated on my Etsy page, what cons are coming up. So my Etsy page, you can find all my stuff there on my Etsy page, which is Trot L'Oeil Art on Etsy. And that should also have links to my Redbubble, which is where I have all my prints. I don't do any of my prints on Etsy just because it's very hard to do prints a lot of times on Etsy. So I do a lot of my digital work is always up on Redbubble. Or you can go through We Live Fine and look for my designs on there.
Very cool. Well, thank you for taking a little bit of time to talk to us about all of your works and the shenanigans you get up to at conventions. We appreciate it. And to all our viewers and listeners out there, as always, until next time, go be creative. And don't blink.
Don't.